This is the ultimate crafting gadget for hardcore cosplay crafters and makers. It's got a built-in tape measure, notepad, pen, pencil, and marker holder, and much more, all at your fingertips. In this video, I will not only show you how I made it, but also give you a free pattern so you can make one for yourself. So make sure to subscribe and ring that bell like Big Ben on the hour, because in a future video, I'm going to be adding an Assassin's Creed style hidden tool to the bottom of this that I'll tell you about later in the video. If you're a gadget nerd like me, then make sure to let me know in the comments by typing a yes in all caps and grab the free pattern in the description below to make one for yourself. Without any further ado, let's start the build. Just like all my builds, I like to break it into 5 simple steps that I refer to as the Forge method. Framework, organize, revisit, glue, embellish. First up is framework, or in other words, creating your pattern. Now, lucky for you, I've done all the legwork and I already have the pattern made and available for you to download in the description below, so all you have to do is download it, print it out, and use it to follow along. Big thanks to CosTools for sponsoring this video. They're helping make it possible for me to put this pattern out there for free so that anyone and everyone and you can make one of these crafting gauntlets of your own. You'll see me using their tools throughout the video. They're awesome. I absolutely love them. With that, let's dive in. All right, so with your pattern printed out, it's time to jump to the next step. Organize. In the organize step, you're going to get all your pieces organized and ready to go. Start by cutting out all the pieces from your pattern and then trace them onto the foam. Each piece of the pattern is marked with what thickness of foam you should use for that piece. Now, this is made for the left hand, the pattern, but all you need to do is simply flip it over and trace it to be able to use it for the right hand if you're left-handed. Make sure you mark all the registration marks and dash lines onto your foam from the pattern. I have a video on tricks and more details on how to transfer your pattern to foam. Once you have it on your foam, use CosTools' super handsome red tools to cut your pieces out of the foam. Cue the cutting montage. Perfect. Now with all those pieces cut out, go ahead and hit that like button to let me know that you're still following along, and we'll jump into step 3. Step 3, revisit. In this step, I always revisit my pieces to see if there's any details or anything I can do to them now while they're still flat and easier to work with that'll save me time later. In this case, I want my gauntlet to have a leather look to it. So I'm going to add the leather texture to all my pieces now, as it will be much easier while it's flat and more permanent than trying to add it once it's all glued together. I have a full video on how to add a leather texture to foam, but the basic idea is you crumple up tinfoil, then uncrumple it, and press it into the foam with a hot iron. And this is what it should look like when you're done. Next, we are on to one of my favorite steps. Step 4, glue and assemble. Before we pull out the glue and the sewing machine, let's do a quick run through of what connects to what. The A piece will be the base. We will add the strap pieces onto the B piece, which will then get glued onto the A base piece. The C piece will get some elastic glued onto it and will sit on the back of the glove. And the glove will get sewn into the top of the A piece. Yes, I said sewn, because that's how awesome the 2mm What the Foam that I'm using for this gauntlet really is. It's strong enough that you can tow a truck with it and use a sewing machine on it. I'll link to this up here and in the description. All right, so with that overview, let's dive in, play some tunes, and start assembling this thing together. On the top of the B piece, you can cut a bunch of slits and weave a strip of 2mm What the Foam through it and glue it down on either end to create your pen, pencil, marker holder on the top. I did it at an angle to make them easier to put in and out, and for the spacing, I did a 1/2 inch for each holder section with a 1/4 inch gap in between each one to weave the strip. Next, we need a way to attach the notebook and the measuring tape. You can easily add the notebook by creating 2 slits in the B piece and running a 1/4 inch elastic through it and tying it off tight. Then you can swap out replaceable notepads. For the measuring tape, you can just use some scrap 2mm What the Foam, heat it up, and pull it tight around your measuring tape. With your foam stretched around the tape, cut a slit for the actual measuring tape to run through, and mark a half circle across the top on the opposite side of the slit and cut that out. Glue the foam down tight around the measuring tape and around the C-piece and cut off any excess. Once you have all the main pieces assembled, we're going to need to add some elastics to the A-piece to close it up around the arm. I have links to all the tools and pieces that I use for this build down in the description, including things like the measuring tape, so that you can order the same ones and make it as easy as possible to recreate. And with that, the main body of your build is complete and it's time for the final step. Step 5, embellish. This is the step where we're going to give this thing a sweet paint job and add any other final details or finishes. Let's start by prepping it to spray. I'm just separating the C-piece, tucking the glove in and covering the elastics with tape, and taping anywhere else that I don't want sprayed. All right, now let's coat this thing in some Plastidip. So it was almost midnight and too dark for me to capture any footage of the Plastidip going on. So here it is, Plastidipped. I did about 2.5 to 3 coats and let it sit at least overnight. I like this look for leather, so I won't be adding any more paint. Now that it's painted, we can add our latches for the top flap. To do that, I'm just super gluing it on there. We'll see if that holds well enough or if I end up needing to reinforce it with stitching or something else. Now all we have to do is add all the accessories. The notebook, the measuring tape, and all the pens and markers. And now I'm ready to become the Batman of cosplay crafting. Now you may be wondering what these straps are and why I didn't use them. These are actually to be able to add on a dual action tool underneath here that I'll tell you about in just a second, but first let's recap. We used the Forge method. Framework. I've got a link to the pattern in the description. Organize, cut, trace, and cut out the foam. Revisit. Add details while it's still flat, like the leather look. Glue. Assemble all of the pieces. Embellish. Add paint job and final details. Forge your very own crafting gauntlet using EVA foam. But not just any EVA foam, it's What the Foam by Cosplay Apprentice. Now, CosTools cutting tools are the perfect pairing for What the Foam. I can't recommend these enough, so go get yourself one or all of them because they're awesome. I'll put links to both What the Foam and the CosTools down in the description below. With that, let me tell you about how I plan to take this gauntlet to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell because in a future video, I'm going to use these straps to create a Assassin's Creed style hidden blade that will actually deploy my honing steel. So I'll be able to pull back like this. It's going to pop up like that. It'll be on a swivel. I'll be able to pull that into my hand, sharpen my blade, flip that back, pull my hand back, go back in. So that'll be super cool. Gonna do that. Also plan to make a gauntlet for the other hand and add a bunch of other different features. So make sure to stay tuned. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Cosplay on, my friend. See ya.